Good morning. This is Mary reading the New Bedford Light to you on Wednesday, October 1st. Our first story is from the Health Department. The Fire Department begins formal state safety inspections at Whalers Cove. The New Bedford Fire Department began quarterly safety inspection at the city's only assisted living facility this month, 1 week after the Light reported that the facility had not received a formal inspection in the last 18 years. According to a copy of the inspection report, Lieutenant Kevin Pedro inspected Whalers Cove on September 17th and found no fire safety issues, including no issues with the facility's alarm, heating, or sprinkling systems. The results of the inspection are consistent with the department's assessment of the Whalers Cove is a safe, clean, well-run facility with a professional, compassionate management team and staff, Fire Chief Brian Medeiros said in a statement Friday. The NBFD has had a strong partnership and maintained a frequent presence at Whalers Cove, with the New Bedford Fire Department units on site regularly responding to calls for medical assistance. Medeiros added that in July, he and 2 inspectors had also performed an informal inspection at the privately owned facility at the request of the executive director, Laura Souza. She had also invited the department to participate in an emergency training exercise at the facility, which will take place in October. The lapse in formal fire safety inspections came out of confusion between the city and state agency in charge of regulating assisted living facilities. Earlier this month, the New Bedford Fire Department said the responsibility for inspecting assisted living facilities lay with the Executive Office of Aging and Independence, AGE. An AGE spokesman said all fire code inspections fall on the local fire department. Officials in Fall River, Mattapoisett, Taunton, and Fairhaven fire departments each told the Light that they inspect their assisted living facilities on an annual or quarterly basis. On September 10th, the day the Light published a story about the confusion, Medeiros released a statement on social media announcing that the department would begin inspecting Whalers Cove regularly. The inspection took place 7 days later. The next formal inspection is scheduled for December 11th. We are grateful for the partnership with Whalers Cove residents and staff and look forward to our next visit, Medeiros said. Our next headline: corporate tax fight hits home for New Bedford residents as federal tax cuts loom. New Bedford, in quotes, disgusting, angry, unfair, unquote. Those were words New Bedford residents scrawled onto note cards Thursday night when asked what the corporate tax evasion made them think of. Their responses reflected frustration as Massachusetts braces for the impacts of the Trump administration's One Big Beautiful Bill. At Protect Our Cares Town Hall, organized by several local progressive groups, constituents spoke before lawmakers about impending federal cuts to health care, education, and food assistance. To offset the losses, advocates are pushing a corporate fair share bill in Massachusetts, which would require multinational corporations to pay more state taxes. We can't evade our taxes, so these multi-corporations shouldn't be either, said Tracy Albernaz, representing one of the meeting's sponsors, Massachusetts United Interfaith Action. About 100 people attended the meeting, held at the Greater Southeastern Massachusetts Law Label Council's office. The Trump administration's bill, signed in July, is set to slash federal funding for Medicaid, SNAP food assistance, and student loans by over $1 trillion nationwide over the next several years. Massachusetts is facing up to $3.5 billion reduction, threatening over 350,000 SNAP and Medicaid users. People are going to die because of this bill, says Taylor Searcy, a political organizer for 1199 SEIU, a healthcare union and local meeting sponsor. The advocacy coalition Raise Up Massachusetts wants to soften the blow by targeting millionaire corporations such as Amazon, McDonald's, and Apple that use offshore tax havens. The proposal builds on the state's 2022 Fair Share Amendment, or the millionaire tax, which added a surtax on income above $1 million to fund improvements to public education and transportation. Advocates say the new legislation could raise over $400 million in state revenue. They also propose spending $1.2 billion from Massachusetts' $8 billion stabilization fund to plug gaps left by the federal cuts, though they support leaving a balance in the fund to protect access to critical public services, organizers said. I think this is a no-brainer, said Rep. Chris Hendricks, Democrat of New Bedford, a longtime supporter and co-sponsor of the corporate fair share bill. About half of Mass Health, the state's public health care program, is federally funded. Cuts are expected to strip $1.75 billion from the state's Medicaid budget, according to Governor Maura Healey's administration. 2 million of the state's 7 million residents are enrolled in Mass Health, including most patients of Southeast Health, which serves New Bedford. There's times that I couldn't even get my own medication because they stripped my Mass Health away, said Casey Vega, a caretaker and representative of the 1199 SEIU. I shouldn't have to pick up and choose which medications to get. Rep. Antonio Cabral, Democrat of New Bedford, said the state's rainy day fund must be used carefully. We spend on Mass Health anything from $22 to $24 billion, so $8 billion in the midst of that doesn't even cover for that. Residents also worried about cuts to education and food assistance. Michelle Willis, president of the New Bedford Federation of Paraprofessionals, relies on public safety nets like housing assistance, SNAP, and Mass Health. My job, my career is at risk, she said. The services that public schools provide for my students are possible because of public health insurance funds, speech and occupational therapy, and adaptive physical education. Local business owners said the cuts would ripple through the economy. Jenny Aruda, city councilor at large candidate and small business owner, said she is already seeing fewer customers. A lot of my customers, I'm sure, are afraid to spend money right now because they are all worried about what these cuts might do to impact them. All state 6 representatives on the panel expressed support for the corporate fair share bill, though some warned that revenue from offshore taxers would only go so far. Rep. Carol Fiola, Democrat of Fall River, said the state needs to prioritize allocation of its rainy day fund. $8 billion won't be enough to fill the gap, so the $400 million that you anticipate from this offshore tax, believe it or not, is a small amount of money. Fiola, the only non-co-sponsor on the panel, noted that the federal cuts remain projections and the true severity of them is still uncertain. She said she plans to sign on as a co-sponsor as the bill moves forward. Cabral urged constituents to keep Representative Mark Silva, Democrat of Fairhaven, said the legislature may have to consider plugging the funding gaps with multiple bills. He mentioned one signed last week reserving $234 million of the health safety net hospitals, community health centers that receive state funding for essential care, in anticipation of impacts from federal cuts. I can tell you that we will keep fighting hard to make sure that we can turn around what's happening federally, said Silva. The corporate fair share bill is scheduled for a joint hearing on October 3rd. Our next headline, City Nursing Home Cited for Failure to Stop Physical and Sexual Abuse. A New Bedford nursing home has been cited for more health and safety violations than any other nursing facility in Massachusetts and more than 99% of the facilities in the country. State inspectors discovered that Brandon Woods failed to provide a safe environment free from physical abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect, and cited it for 44 violations according to a December 2024 inspection report. 3 of the violations posed immediate jeopardy to resident health or safety, and another 5 caused actual harm. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services had flagged the facility for abuse and fined it $464,490, the largest single fine for a Massachusetts nursing home in at least 3 years, according to the Light's analysis of federal data. Brandon Woods of New Bedford received more citations in its last inspection cycle than 99.5% of nursing homes in the country, the Light analysis found. According to an inspection report, one resident of the dementia unit would wander into female residents' room, stand at their bedsides watching them, and fondle his genitals. The inspection also uncovered instances of residents hitting each other, while the nursing home mostly didn't report. Staff knew about the behavior, but didn't have care plans in place to stop the abuse, the inspection report said. Many of the other citations had to do with standard medical care for residents. In one case, a resident developed necrotic bed sore. The facility's staffing was below federal requirements, and a dangerously low number of staff had completed required training, the inspection said. Nursing homes must meet federal requirements for health and safety to be eligible for Medicare and Medicaid funding. These requirements are enforced through inspections conducted by state agencies. In Massachusetts, the Department of Public Health does these inspections. Elder advocates who reviewed the December inspection's findings said they were appalled by the number and severity of the violations. It's abhorrent, said Paul Lanzikos, co-founder of Dignity Alliance Massachusetts, a coalition of senior and disability advocacy organizations. It's really reprehensible. This is not the first time Brandon Woods of New Bedford has faced significant penalties. It reached a $52,000 settlement with the state's Attorney General in 2022 to resolve allegations that staff failed to reposition a resident for weeks, causing bed sores and a rapid decline in health before the resident died in a hospital. Essex Group Management, headquartered in Rowley, Massachusetts, owns Brandon Woods of New Bedford and 8 other senior care facilities in the state. The company has appealed the findings of the inspection, also known as a survey, according to the Chief Operating Officer, Scott Picone. The company feels that the survey is incorrect, he said in a phone interview. He declined to comment further or provide a copy of the appeal because the appeal is still open. Medicare records show some of the chain's other nursing homes, Brandon Woods of Dartmouth, and facilities in Milford and Tewksbury, also received low ratings for overall quality and health violations in 2024. Medicare fined each of the 3 facilities last year, with penalties ranging from $3,387 to $38,610. The number and severity of their violations are nowhere near those of the New Bedford facility. The chain's new 2 nursing homes in Worcester received above-average overall ratings. None of these facilities are flagged for abuse. Health inspectors visited Brandon Woods of New Bedford in November 2024 and issued their findings in a report the following month. The facility's last inspection before that was completed in August of 2023. Brandon Woods of New Bedford was found to be back in compliance during an inspection in February, according to Kathleen Conti, a spokesperson for the Massachusetts Department of Public Health. Conti declined to make any officials available for an interview or answer a list of written questions. She referred a Light reporter to officials responsible for public records and said the department doesn't comment beyond what's already in the inspection documents. The nursing home submitted a plan of correction to state public officials. The Light's public records requested a copy of the plan, and other compliant documents remain under review, according to a state records officer, with no timetable for completion. The Light started requesting these records from the agency at the beginning of August. The Massachusetts Public Records Law normally requires a response in about 2 weeks. The Light spoke with relatives of 3 Brandon Wood representatives who gave accounts of their parents' experience. Taken together, their accounts include assault, inattentive staff, and disorder. Lori Smetanka, Executive Director of the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care, said the violations indicate that this nursing home is a troubled facility. She said the facility would need to demonstrate that meaningful changes had been made to prevent further harm to residents. We should not be accepting this. It doesn't have to be this way, she said. Next headlines. In quotes, salad days, greater than the sum of its parts. In an anxious era of doom scrolling, political and social turmoil, and the counterintuitive belief that an AI prompt might somehow magically turn someone into an artist, musician, a poet. A quiet walk in a public garden might, at least momentarily, offer a quiet respite from the collective dread. The Allen C. Haskell Public Gardens is free to the public 6-acre oasis of grass, flowers, songbirds, rabbits, and other critics, ancient trees, and clusters of bamboo just a few blocks south of the intersection of Hathaway Road and Shawmut Avenue that even some long-term residents seem to be unaware of. Presently, the gardens are hosting Salad Days, a unique exhibition of 63 works of art by 21 creators. 5 are South Coast residents, 3 are from elsewhere in Massachusetts, and others hail from the 3 boroughs of New York, Atlanta, Chicago, New Orleans, San Francisco, Las Vegas, Texas, Maryland, and even Glasgow, Scotland. The curator, Mimi Pinheiro, is an Azorian American artist who is a co-founder of the Site-Specific Happenings, which she describes as a shape-shifting art of recreational platform for art-centric experiences. Her previous projects have been hosted in unanticipated venues, including a digital gallery and a former quinceanera hall. And at the Haskell Gardens, she has transformed 3 humble, cluttered, and long-ignored greenhouses into an unexpectedly stunning showcase. But first, a shout-out to New Bedford glass artist Tracy Barboza, the owner of Duende Studio, best known for her work on the tower at the New Bedford MBTA train station. In 2020, she applied translucent vinyl film in red, orange, yellow, blue, green, and violet to the panes of one of the 4 greenhouses at Haskell Gardens. Over the years, even as the colors have faded, it has become a photo backdrop for prom dates, newlyweds, and other celebrants. It no doubt inspired Pinheiro as well. She sums up the concept for the exhibition, including the rationale for the inclusion of selected artists in this way. Quote, "In a world overwhelmed by mass production, digital simulation, and algorithmic sameness, Salad Days offers a counterpoint, objects and experiences rooted in care, imagination, and emotional presence." The exhibition emphasizes ornamentational, traditional, and novice craft, the handmade, the slow, the flawed, the found, artifacts that carry the unmistakable imprint of the human hand. Many of the displaying artists work in mixed media. Much of it is informed by craft, particularly ceramics, but also by glass, wood, papier-mâché, metalwork, and fiber arts. There is little that is smooth. There is nothing slick. There are rough edges. There are reworked fumblings. There are perfect imperfections. And it's all great. Pinheiro fully embraced the idea of the 3 greenhouses as mini galleries. The artwork is displayed on benches, on concrete blocks, on wooden planks, on soil, on wet mesh wire screens, and the remaining detritus of the space. The greenhouses are not to be entered. The art is only viewable from the outside. There is a sense of looking into a museum diorama or an abandoned animal enclosure. Clearly, there is much to take in and contemplate in Salad Days. That said, this exhibition is greater than the sum of its parts. The placement of the artwork within the greenhouse is problematic, but in a kind of perfect way. The sun glints off the glass. You see your own reflections. You see the people on the other side of the structure. There are smudges and fingerprints on the glass. Each visit, and I suggest several, might mean raindrops running down the windows. There may be condensation, fogging, perhaps an early frost. Each time it may be different. The conditions make the experience, and that is its joy. It's art in the oasis. Salad days will be on display at the Allen C. Haskell Public Gardens, 787 Shawmut Avenue, New Bedford, until October 12th. Our next headline, New Bedford asylee back home after a week-long ICE detention. New Bedford. Manuel Morales Gonzalez saw the blue lights go off in the rearview mirror at 6:08 a.m., shortly after the 27-year-old and her partner, Pascual Gwen Gonzalez, 32, left their home in the city for work at a farm. We were in the car for maybe 2 minutes, she recalled in Spanish. Then we saw the lights, and at first I thought it was the local police. I asked him, why are they stopping us if you're driving well, she continued. Then he said, it's them. It's ICE. Agents dressed in paramilitary gear with caps and masks swiftly descended on the vehicle near Hayden McFadden Elementary School on County Road. They opened the door before the couple had a chance to lock them. They said there were 2 women and 2 men, and they spoke Spanish with Mexican and Puerto Rican accents. Gwen Gonzalez, a Quiche man born in Guatemala, said the agents asked for identification, and he showed them his real ID. For the 2 women, that was good enough, he said in Spanish, but there were 2 men who wanted more. Those minutes on Friday, September 12th, were the start of a week-long odyssey that would bring Gwen Gonzalez to 3 prisons in 3 states, an experience increasingly common at U.S. immigration and customs enforcement races to meet President Donald Trump's deportation goals, according to advocates. They said in a strategy based on psychology and courtroom logic. Certainly the pattern we're seeing is to isolate immigrants, said Javier Luengo Garrido, Deputy Field Director for the Regional Engagement at the Massachusetts chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union. It completely goes against civil rights, and we're talking about people who follow the process. We're seeing more cases where people are being detained and sent from detention centers in New England to far away and deported. Gwen Gonzalez's travails began in June, he said, when he received a letter from Catholic Charities Immigration Department, which had represented him in an asylum case years ago. The letter informed him that the government had reopened removal proceedings against him in the Boston Immigration Court. Gonzalez said he entered the U.S. as a minor in 2009, claiming asylum through his mother. 12 years later, in 2021, U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services granted him asylum. Though his asylum papers show his status does not expire, the June 2025 letter from Catholic Charities, which he shared with the Light, showed ICE restarted removal proceedings against him because he had not followed through on adjusting his status to legal permanent residence. I wasn't aware of that, he said in Spanish. I lost contact with my lawyer during COVID, and we never got back in touch. In recent months, immigration detentions have skyrocketed, with those facing deportation often being held in detention indefinitely until they are resolved. In May, the Board of Immigration Review's decision in the matter QLE significantly raised the bar for immigration bond hearings and allowed the indefinite detention of immigrants with pending cases. By September 7th, almost 59,000 immigrants were in detention nationwide, according to the Transactional Record Access Clearinghouse. Gonzalez told the Light he applied for a green card about a month ago. His only interaction with the law in Massachusetts, according to records obtained by the Light from the New Bedford District Court, was in 2015, when the New Bedford police charged him with failure to use his turn signal and driving without a license. A judge found him not responsible in the former charge, and the latter charge was dismissed. On September 12th, He showed the federal agents his valid Social Security card and work permit, but they didn't seem to care. Morales Gonzalez, an asylum seeker with a work permit, saw the situation was deteriorating rapidly. She went for her phone. They tried to grab it and it fell under my seat, she said. Gonzalez had arrived in the U.S. from Guatemala in 2021. They were saying I wanted to record them, and I saw they'd already taken Pascal out and had his face against the door. They threw me against the door hard, he said. Then they went through my pockets and took out everything I had, including my wallet, my phone, my car keys. I didn't even have a chance to speak. ICE spokesperson did not respond to an email request for comment. The couple said the agents then brought them in a black van to Fall River. They said the two female agents laughed and listened to rude music the whole time. I didn't want to look them in the face, she said. I was so scared. They were checking my ID. The only thing I said to them was, "Why are you doing this to me?" Meanwhile, Cohen Gonzalez remained stoic. I was quiet because I realized this truly was ICE. I stood quiet because I heard on the news that lawyers were supposedly telling people to stay quiet if swept up. I have no criminal record, and I knew that if I spoke, I could make my case more difficult for me. Upon insisting on one's civil rights, such as the right to remain silent, is important, said ACLU's Luengo Garrido. He had given a number of Know Your Rights workshops in recent months where he informs community members across Massachusetts what to do if detained by ICE. You have rights, he said, whether or not you are a citizen in this country. Morales Gonzalez says she continued to cry and insist on calling her children. The two female agents soon tired of the situation. That was all I could think about, she said. One woman yelled at me and said, "You need to calm yourself, woman," before asking about her criminal records. I didn't respond to her, she said. Eventually, she said that once we got to our destination, they'd let me call my daughters. According to data collected by The Light, more than 50 immigrants have been detained by ICE in New Bedford in recent months, the vast majority of them men from Guatemala. Williams says it's another injustice added onto a community that has endured innumerable justice over the centuries. Now reunited, the couple are still traumatized. Cohen Gonzalez said he still does not know why ICE arrested him, despite his work permit and his asylum status. The question kept slumber at bay as he waited overnight for his flight at Lafayette Airport. They never told me why they arrested me, he told The Light, or why they let me go. This has been Mary reading the New Bedford Light on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Thank you for listening. Have a lovely day.